impact of having the center here. Having the center here, I believe the argument is primarily that it gives a lot of credibility because this very prestigious group of institutions, corporations, and universities are getting together, and they've chosen Holyoke as a place to site this center, and that will be an attractor to industry. A lot of what we talked about this workshop was really how do we get the workforce in this area made available so that when companies do want to relocate here, that they will have the workforce that they can hire to do work in the city. And that was a lot of the focus in the afternoon. So how do we reach out to the children of Holyoke and to the high school students and to the young adults and get them trained and get them into educational pathways that will make them ready for the careers that might come.
And that, excuse me for interrupting, but
sure.
that's the essence of the question. That if we were to challenge the local colleges to prepare training programs, what industries would we might get them ready for?
Well, I think almost every industry, you'll get me on my soapbox of that. So just shut me up if you almost every industry in Massachusetts is heavily IT dependent. So having something that focuses on the information technology pipeline that looks at everything from small e-businesses up to large corporations. So you could have pharmaceutical research, medical devices research, you could have economic firms, finance firms, healthcare, education itself is a big user of information technology. And so the focus of the workshop wasn't entirely on IT career pathways, but not in the traditional sense of thinking about programmers and software engineers, but broadly people who have the IT skills that this kind of center symbolizes, and that kind of companies that would need those kinds of people would be attractive.
I can just add to that. The Cisco Smart Connected Communities, we're also looking at having a Cisco networking academy in the schools, both probably in the high school or even in the dean school, and I believe up at the college. I know we've been speaking to the college on different issues like that too. So we're looking at trying to get people ready for those kinds of jobs from that end.
So, Rick, it wouldn't be, if I was a high user of CAD drawings or equipment using CAD that has a volume of processing need, I can't rent a partition of this computer and be able to go in and use it? That's not in the mix?
That's not planned. I mean,
I think one thing that, it kind of sets the stage for some activity, not as part of this, but alongside this, that could provide that service, in the sense that what this will demonstrate that, you can deliver in Holyoke is very good, network bandwidth and power and all the practical things you'd actually need to, if you view this as a catalyst to grow other things like that here, then that certainly is beyond the bounds of imagination to imagine that happening. This particular facility isn't seen as kind of doing that.
yeah, I mean, I think there's been an effort to try to encourage companies who operate data centers for commercial services to come in next to the center and build their own center. But this center is going to be, largely equipped by grants, research grants, and therefore the equipment is going to have to be dedicated to the purpose that the money came in for.
I remember when Boston University took over the educational system in Chelsea, and maybe what we're really talking about is having the various universities supply some expertise in various areas of this old industrial city that's becoming alive all of a sudden. And maybe there are other programs that really don't relate to the computer center at all, that because they're here, involved in the computer center, their school of education, their school of business, their school of various medical schools, whatever, could get involved in the city itself. In other words, leverage off of that, not the commuter center so much, but the fact that the partners in the community in the center are the ones that have a lot of programs that would certainly help a city like this.
You know, I always think of, I've been at UMass for 25 years, and I have watched the med school in Worcester grow tremendously over that time. And if you look at what's grown up around the med school, it has a relationship to the med school, but they're not corporations that are transferring them. You know, many of them are just general pharmaceutical companies who, because of the permitting and because of the environment and the campus, were attracted to locate there. And one would hope that this will do this in Holyoke, that, you know, things that are related in a sense, maybe, you know, use the same level of workforce, would be attractive there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be all big data centers. Really, yes?
I have a question on the community liaison. Can you expand on what was meant by a community liaison?
Actually, I'm going to talk in a few minutes about, this is a lead-in to something that we did yesterday. I think, and Bill can, I think, back me up on here, there's a lot of feeling that that the center is going to be here in 24 months or so. Groundbreaking in the fall, 18 months to construct, I think that's roughly the time frame. And that rather than wait till then to start thinking about what you're going to do in terms of engaging the city, that you should start now. And that's what that was about. That both there ought to be space now and there ought to be a community liaison person put in place now.
From the city side or from the actual college?
Well, it would be somebody employed by the center, but whose responsibility it was to make sure that the community plays a large role in defining what kind of impact the center is going to have on the city. Is that right, Bill? The one thing about running a workshop, which I did this one, is that you don't get to go to it. Instead of run around from one room to another. Any other questions about this at all? I think that the community college partnerships really talked a lot about you know, how the center itself and its presence here could affect the kinds of programs that were offered at the community colleges. And so they suggested that besides professional development activities and tours and boot camps and space camp-like things, that there really ought to be a way of leveraging the center for community college and vocational school certification training that produce the kinds of skills that were immediately needed for the workforce in Holyoke, and then led, you know, maybe into a larger pool of people who could be recruited into more advanced educational pathways. And the other focus of this group was really on making sure that the center had in it facilities that could be used by the community colleges in the area and by the vocational schools. So, Jeff is here, right? Huh?
Just over here by the pool.
So if you, any other comments you want to make about that? I think that kind of represents that. Are there any questions about that at all? Well, I can let